everybody, I'm Jo Braun. I'm an indie author, and today we're going to be talking about questions from you guys. I do these every few months because I get a ton of questions on places like Tumblr or Instagram, in my blog and all the rest of it, that I go through and answer the ones that appeal to me basically. So I have 10 questions, and if I have time I have a bonus question that I will cover. So let's get into it, shall we? Question number 1. Why don't you do a newsletter anymore? Do you think you'll pick it back up? I decided not to do a newsletter anymore because after a couple of years of doing it, I found that I wasn't really reaching the right people, and I wasn't having enough time to send out letters and all the rest of it. It's not something I plan to pick up in the future unless the email market changes. Number 2, is the Dying Thoughts series going to be finished in 2019, if that's still the plan? Yes, that is still the plan. I am getting book 7 and book 8 ready for release in 2019, and I will of course let you know about that when I have more information. Number 3, how often do you take a break when writing? You seem to be multitasking a lot. Would you advise someone to do the same? I think I've covered this in my writing speed video, which I'll link up above, and also in some other questions I've had. I have a lot of free time on my hands. I am able to work to the level that I am because I've made sacrifices in other areas of my life. That said, I don't advocate for other people to do the same. I think you have to find what works for you, and when you do, you'll be aware of your limits and other things like that. I do take breaks. I work for 4 days and then I generally have 1 day off. Sometimes it facilitates taking off a chunk of days altogether for things like Bliss and Darker and stuff like that. And other days it's just the 1 day out of 4 and then I go back to work. But I think everyone needs to find the balance for them. This is a balance for me, and that's only what I can go by. Number 4, if you edit as you go, how do you not get stuck into always editing? Basically, experience. I didn't used to edit as I went. I used to just read through and get myself back into the zone, start the story again and go from there. I wasn't one of these people who felt like I could edit as I went. It's only really been in the last 6-7 years that I felt comfortable going back and actually correcting things rather than just writing through the first draft and then going into redrafting. And because I do edit as I go, it makes the editing process a little easier, but I wouldn't advocate for anybody starting out because, as this question says, you can get sucked into always editing and always trying to get the perfect chapter, and it just isn't going to happen. Number 5, in your writing process video, you talked about character creating. Do you do a lot of it on the go because you're a hybrid? Some of it, yes, as I spoke in that video, which I'll link up in the cards above. I do a lot of character creating before I get to the writing stage, but sometimes there are characters who pop up who I didn't see coming, and because of that I have to create them on the go. But I use the same system as I use for anything else, which is everybody gets a note card, they get a description, they get an age, they get relevant details, etc, etc. And yeah, sometimes it means making them up on the fly, other times they're prepared in advance. Number 6, what made you want to be a writer? I know in your self-published video you talked about why you chose that route, but why writing? I talked about this a bit in the video about what's wrong with me, which I'll link up in the cards. But basically I decided to start writing because I had literally nothing else to do. I wanted to be a writer because I had stories to tell, and I felt like that was the best direction I could go with my life given what was going on. Before I was retired from the working world, writing was sort of like a pipe dream, maybe, possibly, one day kind of thing. It wasn't the focus of my career. I think had things gone differently, I think if I hadn't gotten sick when I did, I probably wouldn't have written the books when I did. But I still think I would have eventually circled around to writing because it is a passion of mine. Number 7, with the release of Walk a Mile, do you plan to branch out into new adult or even adult fiction? Those who haven't read Walk a Mile will know that it kind of skirts the border between young adult and new adult, in that it's young adult because it's below 25, but it's new adult in that it's those experiences you have once you reach 18. I personally classified it as young adult because it's a sci-fi world and the situation was different, it wasn't contemporary or anything else like that. I don't plan to branch out into new adult, I don't plan to branch out into adult fiction either, but it just depends where the stories take me, because that's a lot of what I do is based on where my imagination goes, and that decides what I'm writing and what genre and all the rest of it. Number 8, would you ever do a video where you looked back on old writing? If not, why? I wouldn't, no. Why? Because I don't actually have access to the majority of it. Also, the books or the stories that I wrote at that point weren't just me, they were somebody else, a friend of mine who I no longer am friends with. So they had all the stuff, I kept the digital copies, they kept the physical copies, and I don't have access to them, I don't know if they still exist. I can tell you some of the things I wrote, but they are just so cringeworthy that no, I don't know. Number 9, my friends and I are torn, is Colin, Tara's dad, a good guy or a bad one? That really depends on how you define good and how you define bad. He's both. Like, for some readers, he's this really good dad who just has to deal with a bratty teenager. For other readers, they see it from Tara's point of view in that he didn't do what was best for her and he kept things from her that he should have told her. But I can't really go into major detail about it because of spoilers. But generally speaking, I think he's one of those ones that some people will see as a good guy and others will see as a bad guy, and neither one of them are wrong. Number 10, in your self-published video you talked about staying indie. Is that always going to be the case? I feel like you could meet more people traditionally wise. Yes, it's always going to be the case unless things rapidly change. I plan to stay indie. I like the control I have over my covers, over my titles, over my sales. Yes, I do a lot of the work myself, and because of that it's an extra hassle for me. But I don't think that a lot of what I do would change if I went with the traditional route. I would just have somebody doing the editing for me and somebody doing the proofreading and stuff like that. I don't think it would be a case of lots of marketing money or anything else like that, because that's not the norm. So yeah, I'm happy as an indie author and I don't plan to change that. And we have time, so bonus one. Do you have a street team, and if so, how do I join? At this moment, I don't. I have a readers group, which I'll put a link to in the description below. But I do plan to get a street team together for my next release, and that will start happening in the new year, basically. So a long way off from now. Maybe the end of 2018, but I don't know. But if you want to join, then obviously stay in the readers group. We'll register your interest and let me know that you'll want to be part of it. So there we have it, all my answers to the latest round of 10 questions. I really enjoy doing these kinds of videos and I know that they get a lot of interest from people, so thank you for sending your questions. That's all I've got time for today. If you want to get in touch with me, you can comment or subscribe. I post new videos on Thursdays. You can see me all around social media. And don't forget to check out Darker 2018, where I'll be signing books in October. All the links to which are listed below. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep writing.